Hey there, I saw a video recently about fonts, letters, which I knew something about already. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a book right now where I'm collecting some research studies that I did when I lived in Milwaukee, maybe about 8 or 10 years ago, something like that. Just trying to branch out a bit into some new areas, and calligraphy and letters were part of that. But at any rate, what I'd like to say about how all this started, the video I saw, they went back a bit before the Greeks, but the Greeks sort of devised the first really coherent alphabet. And before that, you did have some symbols applied to objects, so if people were trading things like chickens or something like that, they would have a symbol for the chicken or, whatever. But to me, the important thing to notice about all this is that when letters are basically used to spell words, and the words are used to name things, usually. So what can happen? This might seem like a wonderful thing. Oh, we give names to things. But it's not, because what happens, just like being out here, being among this is basically, well, see, we have words for it. We have nature, we have forest, we have the universe, and then individually we have trees, plants, and so on. Up in the sky, clouds, a cloud. So anyway, the tree doesn't know it's a tree, the cloud doesn't know it's a cloud. Essentially what they are is processes. So everything is basically a process. Learning is a process, growing is a process, trees, clouds forming, rivers flowing, seasons changing, planets in orbit. I could go on and on. They're all processes. But you see, I've described them with words. Planets in orbit. And what this does by naming everything is that it makes the processes, for the most part, invisible. You could take something like global warming, for example, which is a name for something. It's a name for a process. And so how do you approach something like that? Well, you have to look at a lot of elements that make up this process, find their names, or give them names. Carbon, things like that, carbon dioxide. So this whole thing of the Greeks deciding to name everything and thinking they could benefit from that, indigenous people don't do this. So, for example, Native Americans, Lakota, for example, do not have nouns in their language. They don't have a word tree or cloud. They see the processes. And when you see the processes, then you are not disconnected mentally or verbally or in some sense from the universe itself. Then you become a part of the universe, a part of processes. And that's basically where we've come now. So say, for example, you could be driving through some suburban area, signs everywhere, electric lights, power lines, telephone lines, 5G towers, structures of all kinds, buildings, everything. And all in between them all, usually, you're going to see, well, I call them trees here, but basically it's nature, let me see another word, basically the universe being paved over with these things. Now, these things, we named them all, cars, buildings, whatever. But is it real? Are they really things, or is it a process? A process that we are creating. It's like, yes, it is a process. So in a sense, it's better to choose which process you want to embrace. Recognize the process that you're a part of. Now, for example, Australian Aborigines who basically lived in perfect harmony with the universe for over 200,000 years, were the happiest, healthiest people ever studied by anthropologists. They, what was I going to say about this? God. Well, they are a state, were a state, where that was the primal, healthy, normal state. What we live in is not that. In a sense, you could say it's the opposite of that. But I'll use an example, and that is, if you have an animal, see there, I've put a name on it. Take a specific one, like a chimpanzee maybe, and it's, living out there. We would call it surviving. That's the way we look at things. Oh, it's survival of the fittest. Well, that's another subject. It's not survival at all. It's living, it's life. But anyway, if you use as opposing examples, the chimpanzee that is out there living and the chimpanzee that is in the cage all the time, no earth, dirt, plants, sun, being tested, being rewarded for recognizing names and words, and perhaps learning how to operate a typewriter or keyboard. So this can happen with animals. They can be trained to understand sometimes hundreds, if not thousands of words, communicate with them, with us. But before that, they didn't need any of that. So anyway, that example of the chimpanzee in the wild and in the cage, I think is very succinct, because we are in the cage. And as the Aborigines say, little brother, referring to us, has lost the dreaming. And the dreaming is basically the underlying consciousness of the universe. So anyway, when it comes to putting words on everything and creating more and more and more and more words all the time, thinking that somehow it's beneficial, or it's knowledge, or it's education, or something like that, where does it lead? All it does is lead away from creation, everything. Because now everything can never be seen for what it is. It has to be turned into terms, nouns. So anyway, what to do about this? Well, recognizing what's happening is important. And also, I think, understanding that the overemphasis on the importance of our language is extremely, extremely detrimental. Detrimental to us, detrimental to life on Earth. Sounds maybe pretty radical. You might say, oh, well, that's your opinion, Hoffman. It's like, not really. It's not an opinion. It's just a fact. It's what's happening. So anyway, I think I've covered it. So I'll leave it there. Be careful, okay?